It was a cold, overcast afternoon in a quiet village nestled in the heart of rural Japan. The wind whistled through the bare branches and the sky threatened rain as young Akiko walked home from school. The villagers had been on edge lately, speaking in hushed tones about a dark figure said to be lurking around the streets after sunset. Some said it was just a tale to scare children, but others believed the rumors were true. They spoke of the Slit Mouthed Woman, a vengeful spirit that preyed on the innocent, her distorted face hidden behind a surgical mask. Akiko, only 12 years old, tried to ignore the stories. She didn't believe in such things, or at least she told herself she didn't. But as she walked the long road home, the air felt different, heavier. She had stayed at school later than usual for extra classes, and now the fading light cast eerie shadows across the empty streets. Her footsteps echoed in the silence. The alleyways seemed darker today, more ominous, and as Akiko turned the corner onto a narrow path lined with tall wooden fences, she suddenly felt the hairs on the back of her neck rise. She quickened her pace, her heart racing. The wind picked up, carrying with it a strange whisper, almost like a voice. Akiko's grandmother had told her stories about the Slit-Mouthed Woman, a malevolent spirit who would appear suddenly and ask one terrifying question. "Am I beautiful?" The spirit's face, hidden by a mask, concealed a gruesome deformity. Her mouth was slashed from ear to ear. If the person answered no, the spirit would kill them on the spot. If they answered yes, she would remove the mask, revealing her mutilated face, and ask again. No answer could save you. If you said yes again, she would cut your face to match hers. If you tried to flee, she would follow, always just out of sight until you could run no more. Akiko turned down a side street that would lead her home faster, but her breath caught in her throat as she spotted something unusual ahead. There, standing motionless at the far end of the street, was a woman. She was wearing a long coat and a wide-brimmed hat, her face hidden behind a mask. The woman was perfectly still, as though she had been waiting for Akiko. Akiko stopped, her heart thudding in her chest. The woman was staring directly at her, or at least it felt that way. The street was deserted, and the sense of isolation made her stomach churn. She didn't want to turn her back on the woman, but she also didn't want to keep walking toward her. "Am I beautiful?" The woman's voice sliced through the air, soft and eerie. Akiko froze, her mind racing. It was the question from the legend. Every instinct told her to run, but her legs felt like lead. The woman began to move, slowly stepping closer. Akiko's breath quickened as she forced herself to speak. Yes, she stammered, hoping it would satisfy the spirit and allow her to escape. The woman stopped a few feet away from her, staring with cold, dark eyes above the mask. Slowly, she reached up and pulled it down, revealing her face. Akiko gasped, her hands flying to her mouth in horror. The woman's lips were torn open, jagged cuts stretching from ear to ear, creating a hideous, bloody grin. Her teeth, stained red, were exposed in a grotesque smile. "Am I beautiful now?" the woman asked, her voice dripping with malice. Terror gripped Akiko's body. She wanted to scream, to run, but she remembered what her grandmother had told her. There was no escaping this spirit. Even if she ran, the slit-mouthed woman would follow her forever. But then she remembered something else her grandmother had said, an old piece of advice that might just save her. With trembling hands, Akiko reached into her school bag and pulled out a small, handheld mirror. Without a word, she held it up in front of the spirit's face. The woman stared into the mirror, her mutilated reflection gazing back at her. For a moment, the air grew impossibly still, and the woman's expression shifted from a sinister smile to one of confusion, as though she were seeing her own face for the first time. Taking advantage of the spirit's momentary distraction, Akiko turned and bolted. She ran faster than she ever had before, her heart pounding in her ears. The wind howled behind her, but she didn't dare look back. She sprinted through the twisting streets, praying that the mirror had worked, that it had confused the spirit long enough for her to escape. After what felt like an eternity, Akiko burst through the front door of her home, slamming it behind her. She collapsed on the floor, gasping for breath, tears streaming down her face. Her grandmother rushed to her side, immediately sensing something was wrong. "You saw her, didn't you?" her grandmother whispered, her voice filled with fear. Akiko could only nod, still trembling. Her grandmother pulled her close, holding her tightly. "You did the right thing with the mirror, child, but be careful. She might come back. She always does." The words sent a fresh wave of fear through Akiko's heart. The slit-mouthed woman was not gone. only delayed. She knew deep down that the spirit might return one day, and the next time, she might not be so lucky. From that night on, Akiko never walked home alone again, and she always carried a mirror with her, just in case. But even now, as the years passed, she could never shake the feeling that the slit-mouthed woman was still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to ask that terrifying question once more. Am I beautiful?